everyone, and welcome to Book Talk with Cara. I am so delighted to welcome my friend Anne Swindell back. We are going to talk about her brand new book, but before we do that, Anne, do you want to take a moment just to introduce yourself and update us on what you're doing?
Yeah, so fun. Thanks for having me back, Cara. I really appreciate it. It's fun to talk about books. And yeah, I am in the middle of launching my second book in the series, Christmas. It started with Christmas in the Castle Library, and this second book is Love in the Castle Library. So I am having a blast. This is my first series as a novelist. I was in the nonfiction world for a while. So it's been so much fun to join this fiction side of things.
It is, and I love that you didn't just join it. You decided to create an entire world and your own kingdom and your royals and all of things bookish. So, as you think about this new book, what was kind of fun about coming back to this land and world that you created, and what can readers expect?
Yeah, so fun and a great question. And since I am relatively new to the fiction world, I didn't realize how fun it was to create your own kingdom. It has been an absolute joy to get to put all of the things I love about many different European countries that I've visited or studied in and kind of tuck them all into one little fictional country that I hope encompasses a lot of what is beautiful and true about the kingdom of God, reflected imperfectly but wonderfully in a fictional kingdom called Leathersby. So I had a blast adding more details to Leathersbyrian traditions and the history of the country. But then I also took the hero and heroine on a jaunt to Oxford, England, which is my favorite real city outside of my own state in Michigan. So it was really fun to incorporate both the real world and the fictional world together in Love in the Castle Library.
I love Oxford too. It's one
Oh,
of my favorite little places to visit when I'm in London.
magical.
And so, what was it about Oxford that you're like, oh, I have to incorporate it into this particular story?
You know, there is something about Oxford is sometimes called the city of dreaming spires. It is this ancient, wonderful academic city that is just dotted with multiple colleges in the university. You know, the university as a whole has multiple colleges, and so there are these all these beautiful architectural uh these buildings that just look stunning and you feel like you've walked into kind of a medieval ancient city, but it's got all the wonderful newness of life and vibrant students and conversations. And you can go to Evensong with these beautiful choirs at some of the colleges. So I studied abroad in the UK the summer after my freshman year in college, and we spent the most time in Oxford. We lived at St. Anne's College
Oh,
in the
fun.
university, which felt great for me as my
Yeah.
namesake, you know. But that summer really impacted me and shaped me and gave me kind of this rich taste of freedom and was also a really beautiful blossoming time in my own relationship with Christ. And so I think some of what the Lord did in me that summer has always kept this tender place in my heart. And part of my hope through Love in the Castle Library is to hopefully give readers a bit of that taste of the magic of Oxford, the beauty of this fictional country of Leathersby, but also share through Delphine, who's the heroine, what God did in part in me that summer, and I hope to share with the readers, which is to come to know more of God as a good father
Mhm.
who loves and cares for his children. So to do that in these fun, whimsical settings was really special, and it's fun to write about places that you love and then also create new places that you love.
I love that. And there's something about being in those spaces and walking down those streets and
Yeah.
meandering through the gardens that is kind of magical. You get a sense of time and space and place that then can carry over into your books. Like I'm starting to work on a proposal for a new series, and I'm setting the first scene or two in Barcelona, and I'm
Oh,
back in like the Google Maps of places we were back in March and just kind
yeah.
of reliving that and trying to go, okay, what does a reader need to see to feel the magic of
Right.
that particular location? And so it's always kind of fun as a author and a creative to be like, okay, how do I communicate this in a
Yeah,
way that it transports a reader without becoming a travelogue?
totally.
How did you hit that balance?
Well, it's funny what comes to mind. One of the first things I go to is food because I love food and I love exploring new places through food. And to be fair, I mean, the UK is maybe not known for their
It's so
food.
true. Yeah.
But as a 19-year-old, and then I had the joy of getting to go back with my family about a decade ago. Um, Ben's Cookies is this place in the covered market in Oxford where they sell the cookies by weight. They don't even
Oh
bother with
gosh.
regular prices, they just sell them by weight. And I ate so many of those cookies, but it was this flavor, right, of that summer for me. And so I have the main characters go there. I have them go to one of my favorite pubs there called the King's Arms. I have them walk by the
Yeah.
Radcliffe Camera, which is this beautiful, iconic library in Oxford. And so, even just knowing my readers, if you're reading this series about in the castle library, you probably love royalty and you probably love libraries. So, they have to be in the library in Oxford. They have to explore all these ancient places. And I'm with you. I got out Google Maps, I was retracing some of my steps from the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, which
Yeah.
houses some of the most ancient, wonderful items we have, all the way to Ben's Cookies. So it was a mix of everything in
Yeah.
between.
I love that so much. Um, and it's so very, very fun. Okay, I'm going to pause right there because I don't
Yep,
know where my
totally
camera
fine.
just
You had it, and then it just disappeared.
it's this okay, they're going to have to fix my computer. Okay, there we go.
You're
Okay,
doing great. You're doing great.
this is just stressing me out. But I one of the things I love about Oxford is the Ashmolean, and high tea there is so incredible.
Oh,
But when you're creating a world, that's a lot of work too. Like most of the time, I firmly set my books in a real space because then I can look at a Google map. I can be like, oh, I've been there and I've experienced this and
yep,
I know what it smells like. I know what it feels like to walk the roads or whatever. But when you're creating a space, all of that you have to create in your imagination, and then you have to create a way to keep it organized and
yes,
remember it, because especially if it's not just one book and you're coming back to it and you have to recreate it and
yes,
not recreate what you don't need to recreate, but remember what you need to remember. So how
yep,
did you do that, going from Christmas at the library to now this
yep,
second book, and kind of keep it all organized and yet add to the world so that it
right,
became even more real for people who are coming back? But at the same time, it's a standalone, so people don't have to have read the first one. They can just read this one and
yep,
still get lost in it. So tell us a little bit about that process for you, because you're blending the two. You've got
right.
Oxford, but you also are creating this entire world that readers are being transported
Yeah.
into.
Well, and I'm laughing because, Cara, I don't think I learned the hard way as a first
Yeah,
time novelist writing a series that I really should have kept better notes when I was writing book one. Because what I ended up having to do was just go back and read a lot of book one, which is great, right? I mean, some of that, and I was in that world a lot anyway, trying to go back. But there were times when I was like, oh my goodness, were they
yeah,
coming? Like, was the garden attached to the castle at this part? And how do I, how do I remember these things? So definitely learned for book three, which I'm working on now, that I'm keeping notes on what I'm doing much more precisely than I did for
yeah.
book one. But it has been a learning curve. And I think that has been something that has been challenging and also exciting for me, because the great thing is with the fictional world, you can just keep kind of adding things, right? Like if they're
Mhm.
like, oh, if I think, oh man, I wish I would have included this, I could find a way to get them to Newtown and then add a cafe that I think would be really fun for them to explore, or
Yeah.
incorporate a restaurant outside of the castle that they can get to in Leathersby. That's really fun. So that has been a unique part of the journey as a writer, to say, okay, I've got to keep better track of my details. But then also, I do have the freedom with the fictional country to add things as I need to, without, you don't want to make it seem so fantastical that it's not real, because this is meant to feel like a real country with real people and
Mhm.
real traditions and real values. But there's also an element of whimsy to creating a world that makes it very playful. And I think what I've heard from readers about book one is that Leathersby felt real enough to be believable, but also whimsical enough to have that touch of um, lovely escapism, where you just feel like you're falling into a place that you can't wait to return to.
I love that. And one of my tricks is I create a
Yes, please
series
tell me.
guide. So I create a series guide when I know it's going to be more than one book. And
Yeah.
I will capture photos, I will capture
Mhm.
inspiration stuff, and I do Pinterest boards and all of that too, so
Yeah.
that then
Yeah.
readers can see the places as well. But then anytime I'm writing something about a location or about a person, I will just copy it into the series guide and then I can send that to
Brilliant.
my editor. But I
Yeah.
can also have it for myself and just keep adding to it from book one to book two to book three. And then if
That
there's a
is
book four.
brilliant.
And
You're
so
you're a
it just kind
veteran
of keeps
here. You've
growing.
got the skills. I love it.
I
But
have
then
learned the hard
also,
way.
maybe it's we all have to go through those to earn our chops, with this,
Yep.
but it is something that I wish, oh man, I wish I'd done that to start with. So I will be better going forward. And I love that concept of a style guide for a series because that really is part of what you're aiming for as a writer
Yeah.
as you're getting at, it's not just the details, it's the feeling, it's the style, it's the vibes of a place, right? That you
Yeah.
can inhabit and that a reader knows they're coming back to. I had a friend who's also a reader send me a mug after book one came out and it says off to Leathersby. And I just love that. It was the sweetest gift. And so every time I use that mug, I'm thinking, okay, off to Leathersby. How can I get myself and my reader back to this place? And it's a delight.
I love that. That's so sweet. What a great gift.
Yeah.
So, were there significant ways that your book changed from your initial idea or the first draft to what readers are going to get to experience?
I think one of the biggest things was the characterization of my hero. So
Mm,
this was a fun just tool technique for me to play around with as an author. I'm not still teaching like you are in the academic setting, but I did teach at the college level for years in what feels like a previous decade of life at this point. But so I love the craft of writing. I love learning more about the craft and diving into the craft elements. And my first book was all in written from the perspective of the heroine. So from Ellie's perspective, third person, but from that main character's perspective. Book two, I switched to dual perspectives. So we've
mhm.
got the hero's perspective and the heroine's going back and forth. And that creates a lot of really fun opportunities for miscommunication and misunderstandings and things that have to get worked out. But it was my first time writing a male character's perspective. And so
Yeah.
that was more of a challenge for me. I definitely relied on my husband a lot to be like, is this what a man would do? And there were some things that I had to change as I went from the beginning of the story to the end, especially because Jack, who is the hero of this book, and if you think of Oxford, Jack is my nod to C.S. Lewis, and
Yeah.
he was a professor at Oxford at Magdalen College for years. But Jack, who is the hero of this book, I started him out as a character that was more hard-edged than he needed to be. And I think that was initially me overcompensating for trying to write with a male perspective. And so it was good to see over the process of writing the book how both my husband and then my editors helped me get Jack to a place where I think not only is he strong, but he's also tender in the ways that he needs
Mm.
to be trustworthy and to be believable.
I love that. And it's often really tricky to get. It's easy to go to one extreme versus the
Right.
other. And so trying to find that balance can be really challenging. So when you think about that, what are those essential characteristics of a hero then when you're writing them? And especially
Mhm.
now that you were climbing inside his head,
Yeah.
did some of that shift as you were writing him versus just writing about him?
Yeah. I think the main things that come to mind are integrity, are trustworthiness, and that's connected there to courage and then faith.
Mhm.
Those are all the things that I want my hero to exemplify. I think part of that is maybe in our family we have a saying, what does it mean to be a Swindell? That you're
Mm.
tough, kind, generous, and faithful. And those are the things that I want my kids to grow up to be. And I think that's because that's what we're aiming at, right? Those are some
Yeah.
of the characteristics we see in Christ Jesus. Obviously, Jesus holds all beauty, wonder, glory, power. But when I think of a hero, those are some things that I want. And yeah, it was I think the trickier element of that is how do you don't want a hero that's one dimensional, that is just
Yeah.
comes to the table perfect, right? And is already full of all the integrity and all the trustworthiness and is completely courageous because there's no development. And that's not how any of us exist in the world either. So learning how to have those elements there with the character and develop them over time by putting him, as we do with our characters, we put them in situations that test their mettle and show what they're
Mhm.
really made of and force them to make hard choices and they fail sometimes. That was a cool writing experience for me, especially trying to figure out what I was going to have from his past be a hindrance to his growth, and then what situations I was going to put him in so we could see who he was becoming. And I think with any character, right? That's
Yeah,
part of the joy of writing is discovering how these characters unfold on the page and in the best sense, how they teach us as authors and hopefully how they lead our readers, how we can respond in better ways to the journey that the Lord has us on, whether it's similar or not, those main characteristics of what it means to be faithful ring out through any character if they're done well.
I love that. Um, Here's a couple lighter, fun questions.
Yeah.
Do you write in silence or with music?
Usually in silence. I will say most of my writing time is done at night when everybody else goes to bed. So I'm
Okay.
not a morning bird of any variety. I'm not an early bird at all. I'm definitely a night owl. And I usually write in silence because I homeschool my kids. And so it's the one time of day when it actually
Yeah.
is quiet in the house. But there were a couple scenes in particular, and I'd love to hear what you do too, Cara, where for example, in a couple of these books, I'm writing about balls that are taking
Mhm.
place. And so I wanted similar music on in the background that they would be hearing at these royal balls while I'm writing to kind of help create that feeling as I'm penning something.
Yeah, I have a hard time writing in silence, and I know a lot of people do. They're like, we're going to write in complete silence. And I'm like, I feel like I'm missing something. So I
Yeah.
usually will have something playing, but it's often going to be like music from movies, so like soundtracks.
Soundtracks. Yeah.
And so, but it will be kind of calibrated to the book I'm writing. So
Yeah.
when I'm writing World War II, it often will be more World War II style music. So then
Yeah.
it'll be like Glenn Miller or Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy, that kind of stuff.
To put
But
you in
with
that
those
mindset.
lyrics,
That's fun.
yeah, but those I can tune out the lyrics because I know them so
Yeah.
well that I'm just like, da, 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 da,
Yeah,
I'm
I
just kind of
definitely
writing.
cannot do music with words. For me, it almost always has to be classical or something similar if I'm trying to set the tone. But words, I'm like, I'm working hard just to get my own words out. Any other
Yeah,
words, my brain starts to scramble.
yeah. But if it's like totally silent, I have a hard time. And
Yeah,
so it's just funny how our brains are different. And so
absolutely.
I do. I think it's just kind of fun. What's a good book you've read lately?
Oh man. One of the ones that comes to mind is Megan Shawless's Protector and Proclaimer. So
Okay.
she is a fellow author with White Crown, which is a publishing house that we're with. But her book, she just won a Carol Award for Protector and was just nominated for a Christie. So, I mean, that book is like blowing up and it's so well written. It is not in a genre that I ever read, though. It's a dystopian retelling of Esther, which is like
Yeah.
the farthest from what I usually read. But Megan's writing is so beautiful, lyrical, detailed, and the biblical truths are just shining through. So that's one of the more recent ones that I think was really surprisingly a great fit for me as a reader, even though I never read in that
Yeah.
genre.
I remember when she won the Carol and I was like, ooh, I made a note. That I was like,
Yeah,
oh, I need to find that. And with your endorsement, I'm like, okay, I need to actually go buy that and
yeah.
read it and give it to my 17-year-old. So what's next for you?
Well, I am working on book 3 in this series right now, which will be Secrets in the Castle Library, and Lord willing, that'll come out in fall of 26. And then I would love your advice, Cara. This is, again, my first series that I've ever written. Book 3, it could be the end of the arc of this series with where it's going. I have some ideas of like maybe I could do a novella, a book that could either fit between book 2 and 3 or right after book 3. But then I'm like, okay, what do I do now? I feel so connected
Yeah.
to these characters in this series. I feel like I don't want to quite leave this world yet. So I have some ideas for some new series, but I'm having a hard time emotionally even thinking of leaving this. And maybe it's because it's my first series, but I'm like, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do next after book 3.
Yeah, that can be so tricky. And I'm in proposal writing stage. I feel like I've been in proposal writing stage for forever because I hate it. And
Yeah.
I've also, my brain's just been really full with stuff at work
Mhm.
this season. And so I'm like, okay, I'm finally starting to get a little bit of traction. But
Yeah.
I'm like, I've got to like just get it done. Um, And it's just, it can be hard switching gears and switching to the next
Totally.
thing. So, what I often do is I just start going, okay, God, help me find the next series of ideas that are going to come
Yeah,
together
that's
and
good.
form that next kind of conglomeration of what ifs. And maybe in your case, it's going to be an ancillary series. Maybe you don't have to leave the community altogether.
Yeah,
Maybe, but maybe it won't be in the library. Maybe it'll be
yeah.
set somewhere else.
I have thought, and yeah, if I really can't let it go, I have thought, and I've actually had some readers ask, like, could we get some of the backstory? Because I've set up this as a kingdom that started in the 1600s. Well, I've mentioned here and there, and I've dropped little like breadcrumbs of, kings and queens from the 1700s or the 1800s. And I thought, well, maybe I could write like the tales of old Leathersby or something and go back
Yeah,
and write their history, which would then give me a little more dabbling into some historical fiction, which is not
totally different.
that, but yeah, totally different. And I would be in a fictional country, so you can still get away with a lot, but I would have to do some more research on those time periods so that I'm not
Yeah.
totally crazy when I write.
Well, and this is the series you're writing is around World War One.
Well, so it's interesting. So it's contemporary, but the main characters are researching a mystery that
That's
took
what it
place in
is.
World War One. Yep. So it is contemporary, which gives me a lot of fun, with living in a castle, but having a lot of modern amenities, which is really nice for the characters.
Yeah,
But then they are doing research, and you're reading journal entries from this queen who disappeared from Leathersby during World War One, and so they're trying to discover where she went, what happened to her. And so that mystery, actually, that arc takes place over the course of all three books.
yeah,
So you learn different parts of it in each book, but you won't fully get the full picture of that mystery until you read all three together, which is fun.
that is fun. So, where can readers connect with you and learn more about you and your books?
Yeah, I'm mainly active on Instagram, and it's just my handle is my name, Anne Swindell at Anne Swindell. I have a website, anneswindell.com, and then a Facebook page, which is also just my name, Anne Swindell. Those are the best places to connect. And on Instagram, I do love interacting with readers, starting conversations, things like that. So that would be the best place to find me online.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. And the book is Love in the Castle Library. And so readers can find that wherever books are sold. And
Yep.
it was so fun to get to connect again today.
Thanks for having me, Kara. I really appreciate it.